So my degree was in secondary maths education with QTS. So QTS is like the teaching qualification that comes with it. And I completed it at Brighton University. I chose this university because I knew quite a few people who had gone here or who had gone to Sussex, which is another university that's really nearby. And I knew there was a lot to do in the area. It's also a good university. They've got a lot of support there. And I knew a family member who also chose this university, so I thought it was a good choice also. I chose my course. So basically, I did a different course in first year to second and third. So I did my first year at another uni, and it was international relations, and I didn't like the course. So I then decided to move to Brighton University and chose to do the secondary maths education. I chose this course because it's 2 years rather than 3 or 4, which meant that with my first year at my other uni, altogether I would still be doing the 3 years in university, but I could get my degree in the same amount of time, if that makes sense. So I wouldn't have to retake first year. So it is a 2-year degree, but you do have to have got the credits from somewhere else in order to enter it in the first place. And I also chose it because I really like maths and also have done a lot of tutoring, so I thought it was a good pathway to follow to kind of go with education. I think university in general was tricky. There's a lot of things that people don't tell you before they go. A lot of people just say that the nightlife is amazing and you're going to have so much fun and you're free and you're away from home. But it is a lot harder because you're obviously responsible for everything. You have to look after yourself, stay on top of your workload, manage your time well, maybe also work at the same time if you need the money, make new friends away from home, and that can be really tricky. But all together, I think I am happy that I went to uni, but I did find it very tricky, particularly in first year, because I wasn't happy with my course. So that's one thing I would say is make sure you're going to do either a course you love or one that you're going to be able to do, I wouldn't say easily, but one that you think you're going to be able to do and put in the time and effort to study, because there's no point picking a really tricky degree and then hating it and not being able to do the work, because you will suffer, because it is 3 years of your life and it only gets harder after first year. So in terms of flexibility, workload and lectures, as I said, because my course was 2 years, it's slightly different to most other degrees. So I didn't have, in the first year, I didn't have any big lectures in the lecture halls or anything. My contact time was in small classrooms, and there was only 20 of us on the course. So it was sort of like being in sixth form or college. It was really good in that sense because you could have so much more contact and time with your lecturers or whatever, because there were less people and it was a lot easier to get the attention, and then knew everyone a lot better, so it felt more personal, which was really nice. But speaking to other people in education courses, that seems to be the same thing if you're doing a course for education, so that's one thing to consider. The workload, so the way my course was set up, in the first year I was only in university Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Wednesday was a half day, so I had 2 full days, 1 half day, and then Thursday and Friday I was off, and it was like that the entire year. And I didn't have any exams, it was all coursework, and because of being such a small group, it was easy to get help. So in terms of workload, I definitely feel like it's manageable. And if you stay on top of it, you can easily have a great personal life whilst also focusing on the uni work at the same time. And flexibility-wise, there were a lot of people in my course were over the age of 30 or 40, so they had families, and the uni were really accommodating in being flexible for them. And if you couldn't make a lecture, it was really easy to catch up on the work. But as I said, it was only like 2.5 days of the week pretty much, so it is definitely manageable. Like, it's definitely something you can do if you need flexibility in your time. Yeah, I think Brighton is a really good town. It's sort of like a smaller London. It's got the main shopping centre. It's got loads of shops, clubs, restaurants, bars, everything. It's only 1 hour from London, anyways, if you were wanting to be near there or anything. So yeah, the town's great. It's super busy. There's loads of people. The locals are really nice. There's loads of stuff to do. In terms of the campus, so Brighton is split into different campuses. I was on the Falmer campus, which is where education and business were. So it's the only thing I didn't like is the fact that the campuses are split up. When you are on campus, it can not be very busy, which means it doesn't necessarily feel like you're in uni all the time when you're on campus, particularly if you have, like, depending on your lecture time, you could see a few people, or it could be quite quiet, and in that case it doesn't really feel like uni. But I know that there are the other campus, which is called Morscombe, is a lot busier and a lot more people do their course at those buildings. So I guess it kind of depends what course you choose to where you're based. But yeah, the campus is split up, so that's one thing to consider if that's important for you. Nightlife. Yeah, like I said, there's loads of bars and clubs in Brighton. They have a lot of different events. Freshers Week, they had so many guests, like artists performing and loads of good offers. There's festivals, concerts, everything. Brighton pretty much has everything, and there's definitely something for everyone. They've got all kind of genres of music and nights based on different themes and things. So if like you're a big nightlife person, then yeah, Brighton's great for that. I guess this is kind of tricky because I had, I guess, two first years because my official first year of uni was at a different university, and then I had first year here when I moved. So my first year, I guess, at my other uni, just first year in general, like I said, was super tricky because I was quite far from home, and I didn't really like the uni or the course I was doing, and so it it just felt it didn't really feel right being there. I always wanted to leave. I was commuting back and forward all the time. Um, and I didn't really know many people. Obviously you meet people when you go to uni, but if you do know someone when you go there, it is helpful just at the beginning to kind of give you that confidence to go out and meet more people. And then in terms of my first year here at Brighton, I was busy. It was a lot of work, and it wasn't really like a normal degree. So if you're just doing a standard degree where you're going to lectures, they can be any time throughout the day up until like 6 7 p.m, and you could be in uni for 2 hours and then you have a 3 hour gap and then you have a 1 hour lecture or a seminar. It's very sort of split up and it's in blocks, so you're in and out of uni all the time. Whereas my course, because it's only 2 years, there's a lot to fit in that first year. And you are in uni Monday to Wednesday, and it's a full day. So from 9 a.m. until 4 or 5, you're in lessons or lectures, whatever you want to call it, the whole day. So you get a 1 hour break for lunch. Besides that, you're fully in, it's pretty much like college, sixth form, school, whatever. You're literally in class the whole time. There is no gap. So it's tough because it's meant to be like a first year, I guess, but it's also not at the same time because you're working the whole time whilst you're there, and then you obviously get Thursday and Friday off, which is great, but Monday to Wednesday is really like busy. You've got a lot of work to do. So again, it was different for me, but in first year I stayed in halls. My halls were really near to the main campus, all my buildings and stuff, which was great. So it was like 10-15 minute walk. It was also really close to gyms and restaurants and everything, so I could go in and out of town really easily. I could walk everywhere. I didn't spend any money on transport, which was amazing. And being in halls is quite nice, to be honest. I definitely would recommend it for the first year because you're just constantly surrounded by other people in the same position as you, and it's a lot easier because you meet people in your flat, obviously, and then your whole block, you can meet people there. So yeah, I would recommend staying in halls for your first year at least, and then obviously after that you can decide what you want to do. So in my second year I stayed in a house, and I stayed because I had obviously moved university. I didn't know anyone, so I stayed in a house with 4 other girls, none of whom I knew. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, because if you don't get on, then there's not a lot you can do, because you've committed to your tenancy. Once you sign that agreement, you're done for the year. You can't back out without, well, you could, but then you'd probably lose money somehow. So, I mean, I know some people who have done that and just moved in with people they didn't know and it's worked, but for me it didn't. So I would definitely recommend, if you're moving into a house, meet the people you're going to move in with before, if you can, or at least know one person, and then maybe it's he or she's friends that you're moving in with. I think that would definitely make it a lot easier if you had some idea about who the people are before you go in, because then it's too late by the time you've agreed on everything. I guess my most favourite thing is making different types of friends. Like, meeting people in uni is a lot different, because even though you're still young, whatever, you're an adult, and so you're kind of meeting adult friends, like lifelong friends, which is really nice. And if you make the most of it, it can be a really social, important experience, and it can be really enjoyable. But the least favourite thing is it can be quite lonely, especially when you're in halls, or if you're in a house and you don't like your housemates. So I think that is probably the least favourite thing. Okay, well, I guess outside of lectures, like that side of uni, there's literally 1,000,001 clubs and societies that you can join. If you think of a society, there is a chance that they already have it, and if they don't have it, then you can literally create it yourself. There's so many clubs you can join. There is so much to do. You can, in Brighton as well, because it's a busy town, there's so much to do there. You could get a job in the town centre, you could work at a pub or a restaurant, you can go to the beach, you can travel to London's not that far, you can go to Southampton or Portsmouth, that's not too far either. So there is a lot to do outside of uni, particularly in Brighton. Okay, I guess one piece of advice I would give, and this may not be applicable to everyone, some people may completely disagree with it, and that's completely fine, but I would say if you can go to uni with a friend, there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people will tell you, don't go to university with your friends, split up, make your own friends, blah, blah, blah. That is true, but there is nothing wrong with going, if that's in your plans. Obviously don't choose your university based off of other people, but if one of your friends and you are both interested in university, you both like it, there's nothing wrong with choosing that university together, if that makes sense, because it's so helpful to know that at least you have one person there who knows you from home, and who can sort of give you that confidence at the beginning. Even if you just enter the first party or the first day, the first freshers fair together, at least you have someone you can walk in with, and then when you meet your friends on your course, when you meet people when you're out, you can build your own friendship groups and go from there. But there's nothing wrong with having sort of that safety blanket when you're first going in. Another piece of advice I would get is definitely research your course before you go. Make sure you know what you're getting into. Like I said before, don't pick a course with a ridiculous amount of work unless you're seriously interested in that topic, or you think you're actually going to be able to study for it, because when it comes to the essays, when it comes to the late nights in the libraries, the exams, you don't want to regret picking a course just because you picked the course to go to uni. There is no rush in getting your degree. If you're not sure what you want to do, don't rush into uni. Take your time and look into the courses. Maybe take a year out and try a few things out and find out what you're interested in before you're going, because it is so hard to put in that much work when you're not passionate about what you've chosen. And it's really difficult if you pick a degree which has a lot of work. All degrees obviously have work, but some may be more exam based, some may be more coursework based, depending on the modules. take that into account as well. What do you prefer? Do you like exams more? Do you test well? Or do you like writing coursework and essays? Is that what you think you're better at? And really be sure about what you want to do before you go, because it would be a bigger mistake to rush into going to uni for the sake of it, dropping out after a year or two, and then not knowing what to do, and then going back and delaying everything. You know, take your time, research your course, and pick something you genuinely think you might be interested in, or that you would be able to cope with the workload and the work content. Well, there's loads of sports at Brighton. There's also a lot of local things, like there's a local table tennis team in actual Brighton that's not attached to the uni or anything. There's loads of sports: football, netball, dance, cricket, badminton, swim, like anything you can think of, they probably have that sports club. So there's definitely a lot to do in terms of athletics and sports, yeah. So I think this has changed for me throughout my 3 years. In my first year, I was living in halls, and so I kind of just spent whatever I spent on money. Not on money, sorry, on food. And then in terms of going out, it was so cheap to go out, and when you go out in a group, you can split everything, you know, like you can split cabs, you can split food at the end of the night, whatever it is. And so I didn't really worry about my money in first year. Second year, when I moved into a house, it was really, really hard because I had to manage my money so much better. And I normally gave myself about £50 to £60 a week to live on, because I really had to be tight with everything. You know, that's including food shopping, travel costs, anything extra, like everything. And that was quite tricky, so I would definitely be careful about your money situation. You know, think about how much student finance you're going to get, how much your rent will be, bills, like having enough money in case anything goes wrong, and also giving yourself enough money to enjoy yourself, because you are at university at the end of the day. So I had to be really tight with my weekly budget in my second year. And in third year was a bit more chilled. I think my weekly budget was about £100 a week, I'd say, something roughly like that. But again, in third year, I had now understood more how much I could afford, so I had some wiggle room. I didn't always spend £100 a week, and sometimes if I needed to, I could go over. But in general, that was sort of how I planned it. So yeah.